set, where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying?
This is why I train in martial arts.
Now, way back in the day when I actually had some hair and I had some youth about me, I used to say that I wouldn't teach high school unless I had a black belt in something. And at first it was a joke, but the older I got, the more I started thinking that I should probably seriously think about that. And this incident, I believe, is a middle school fight. This is the uncut video. Alabama superintendent talks about fight on James Clemens High School. Oh, so it is high school. James Clemens High School bus. Now, this would make this thing extremely long if I reacted to the whole thing. I'm just going to react to a good portion of it. And why I'm putting this on the martial arts channel is because this is my take on this. So if you just want to click out now, go ahead. You need traditional martial arts training to break up some of these fights with these kids. You have to be able to take, and I mean like hard style stuff. You're going to have to be able to take hits to the head, some kind of iron body conditioning to withstand being bitten, and not just to take the punishment, but to be calm and take the punishment at the same time. It's like one person on here said, I know, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to cause beef, but I know he got this from me because he said, you shouldn't have to learn Kung Fu to deal with the demographic of people he was talking about. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to cause beef with them either. Okay? It's like you need to know martial arts to handle breaking up fights. Now, I think that you should have educators learning martial arts. A lot of people feel like, hey, I just want to teach. I shouldn't be responsible for this. But if you're requiring them to charge to the line of fire, I think you should get them trained. One way to get them trained is to train them under a good martial arts instructor so they can diffuse stuff and stay calm. So let's go ahead and get this started.
CHOLS, Superintendent, Madison City Schools.
All right, why don't you start off by just talking us through that video that a lot of people have seen online.
Yesterday afternoon, around 3:40 at dismissal time, we had two students on a bus at James Clemens that had a physical altercation between each other. Bus driver called for assistance with the administrative team who responded. They tried to separate. Of course, when we have a physical altercation between students, we have to respond. We couldn't allow students just to continue on without us trying to intervene and stop. We were able to successfully remove one student from the bus. The administrators tried to remove the second student in the altercation from the bus. During that time, the administrator was assaulted, was hit 6 to 10 times across the back of their head.
6 to 10 times across the back of their head. 6 to 10 times across the back of the head. See, that's why that's why Taekwondo is my main thing, and I keep all the Taekwondo that I've learned, and I sprinkle in elements from other stuff because I know in Taekwondo we didn't train me in hitting the back of the head, but that's one thing with some carryover. I only have a smidge of boxing training. I did one amateur match once. That's all I far I got. I didn't get coach level. I didn't get to pro, but I learned to do this. I learned to do that, just to roll with it. And apparently you got to be able to roll with the punches when you're breaking up fights with kids these days. 6 times in the back of the head. If you want to dip into the Kyusho Jitsu, I believe the gallbladder 20 pressure points are back here. That could be lethal. That person could have died being hit in the back of the head, and they're just trying to break up a fight with some children.
The administrators tried to remove the second student in the altercation from the bus. During that time, the administrator was assaulted, was hit 6 to 10 times across the back of their head.
Oh, 6 to 10.
Ultimately, they were bitten twice on their forearm.
Beaten twice on the forearm. Now, we don't do this in Taekwondo. I want to say it's Gojo Ryu. Well, other people don't do this. I do this stuff to myself, and I've done this type of conditioning with my arms and with my son, where you practice hitting on the arms where you can take pain. I do this myself. But if you do more traditional Taekwondo type of sparring and you're blocking, see, this is where people, you got anti-block people out there. This is where your blocks will come in handy. Okay. This is where your blocking they come in handy. Somebody's grabbing, they try to bite you, you move, you can block. You can block. What he did, the administrator got bit, is he ended up punching this young lady. Okay. Which is a response that I'm sure they didn't like. But see, when you use the blocker, somebody tries to bite you, hey, and then you do that, that'll get them off, and that's not an as aggressive looking strike. But that'll harden up those forearms and that skin and get it to the point to where you can tolerate being bitten. He got bitten. Bitten. Let's continue.
Actually went through the jacket, broke the skin, requiring medical attention. And the video that's out there now shows about 3 seconds of about a 3-minute event, of which at some point the administrator, after trying to defuse the situation, actually putting their arms up this way to try to stop the situation.
The administrator put his arms up this way. Did the administrator have to go on a X block to try to stop a fight? He shouldn't have done a soft block. He should have put his arms up here. And that way, if she would bite, I guess it would get more at the bone rather than her biting them and getting at the meat.
Felt a need to defend themselves and did so. And so, you know, while we hate the altercation happen, we don't ever want altercations between students. We also know that there comes a point in time, we'll provide you with pictures of the injury this administrator received, that they have to have an opportunity to defend themselves from further harm.
And if they have to have an opportunity to defend themselves from further harm, how about putting your administrators in some traditional martial arts that were made by people, founded by people who were educators or heavily influenced by educators? Now, if they were near me, I tell them, just sign up for my park and rec class. Now, this is what happens. A lot of people want to come in and they have like an urgent need. They'll be like, well, can we just go over what happened with me and this thing and that? If I have time, I'll do that. But if you just take your time, you learn the 1Z, 2Z, this moving and 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 that move. And you go through all of the little step by step, then eventually build and link them all together. Eventually, some student tries to bite you, you do that. They try to bite you, move your arm back, circle it up, give it a little bit of a shove like that. So they try to bite you, go, oh, I don't want to do that. They try it again, oh. And this looks a lot better than they bite you, you clock them. Because in the video that people have seen before watching the Alabama superintendent talk, you see the man punching the girl. You see a Caucasian man punching a black female student. And I'm sure, the temptation is to jump on the whole racial politics bandwagon. But what you're only seeing is when he got bit and then he struck back. I don't even think you actually see her initiating the bite. And that's why you can't necessarily just judge stuff just based on the part that you see. You have to see the whole thing or find out what actually happened before the person went off. And yeah, so I'm getting off on a tangent here. See, this is one thing I used to talk about. I would say, like when people would say, well, why did that person go off? After a while, I started noticing, you want to make this person or make this group of people look bad because you see this emotional reaction. Do you know what happened to lead up to this emotional reaction? Heck, if you were in that situation and you knew the whole backstory behind this, someone yelling and calling someone out of their name or shoving them, whatever it is, how would you have handled it? Do you think you would have handled it any differently? See, all you're seeing is a person blowing up. You're not seeing why this person blew up, why they struck, why they acted out, why they did whatever they did. That's what I'm saying.
Can you identify who that administrator is in the...
I'm not at this time. It's just an assistant principal at James Clemens High School.
Okay. And then do you guys have policies or certain trainings and things that you follow for situations like this that play out?
We do, and they followed through. Looking at the bus video, they followed through trying to diffuse. In fact, at one point, the administrator trying to separate the two students had their back completely to one of the students to keep them separated. That's when they were getting hit across the back of their head 6 to 10 times. They turned around trying to keep that person at bay with their arms like this, at which time they were attacked twice on their arm. While that was happening, another student behind them was hitting them and punching them in the back as well. So yes, they tried the steps to do the diffusion and to try to separate the students throughout the process.
So if any current students are watching me, if I had you hold a pose, right, and then I yell at you and start hitting you with a bunch of things like nothing hard, like some styrofoam long, those styrofoam columns, those little styrofoam thingies. I don't know what they're called. While you're holding a pose, and you ever seen in the old kung fu movies the guys and they're being kicked and hit in the chest and stuff like that? That's useless. That's the reason why your teacher may have you do that. We don't let children do that because they're still growing. But that is a reason for that type of training. Now, don't feel bad if you don't have the health to do it. If you don't have the health to do that type of training, you can still train martial arts and get tons and plenty of benefit out of it. Okay? So don't think I'm like, we all need to go back to the old school. No. But what I am saying is, I'm starting to think that some of these educators need to. They're getting it anyway. They're getting it anyway. When they have to get in those situations and diffuse that stuff is worse than iron body training. It's worse. It's way worse. Why don't you put them through something like that if you expect them to run in there and deal with those type of situations? Or maybe they need to have armor on or something. I'm being facetious, but I'm also serious. Come on. This is a lot to expect from an educator. A lot. Why don't you hire personnel to deal with this that are martial arts trained, though, so that they have some ethics in with their force? If you don't want to do that, nobody wants to have police officers on the buses all the time, right? You don't want that. You don't like that. You don't like that look. Well, then can you hire security guards to do it? You don't like that look either, apparently. You expect the educators to do it. The educator had to go in there with X block. Open hand X block. The educator had to go in there with using traditional moves and still got bitten. I mean, come on. Bit through the clothes and broke the skin. I'm not making this up. And endured stuff that's harder than what you'd have to do in the hardest style of a traditional martial art. I have not even heard MMA fighters having to deal with this type of stuff. Now, yet and still, I do stand by a video I made a while back where I said people shouldn't stay in there and get punched in the head as part of training. No, because that leads to concussion. They should learn how to bob and weave. I call it a blade of grass, but apparently people say no, it's still slipping.
Can you give us an update on the children? What is happening with the children? What will happen to them?
Well, currently they're suspended out of school. Alabama law requires that we contact the sheriff anytime a staff member is assaulted or threatened, and we will do that today. We have a certain time period to do that in. We'll contact the Limestone County. That happened in Limestone County Sheriff. And then we will look at the video and continue to look at that disciplinary-wise of what we need to do under the Code of Conduct. A report was made with the Madison Police Department, and so they will follow that up with the Limestone County Sheriff's Department about what needs to be done legally moving forward.
In the video, outside of the two children that you mentioned that were having an altercation allegedly, there was a additional child involved, appeared in the video that seemed to be trying to break it up and yelling, you shouldn't be hitting a woman. And that child was pushed or assaulted as well. Is there anything for that child?
Well, we do think there was a student who attempted to help separate the situation. I can't tell you what we'll do disciplinary-wise with that at this time because we're still looking at that and having that reviewed. But there was a student that seemed to be trying to assist. We had several students that were on the bus that were trying to separate the students at the beginning and assist. So we had two administrators that were trying to do that. Very crowded place on the bus. You got a lot of bodies on there, very compartmentalized. So not a lot of room to move around.
And traditional martial arts addresses that with any of these forms that go sideways. Okay, that's from karate. This is from ITF Taekwondo, Cecil Taekwondo, Shanghai. Yeah, can't fit it all in here, but the forms where you move sideways, that will work in that tight spot.
Are you saying at this time, no disciplinary action happening to the adults involved?
None. Our folks have a tough job. Our teachers, we're in a time where folks are questioning whether they want to be bus drivers or teachers. And as superintendent, I'm never going to tell someone if they're being assaulted that they can't defend themselves from further harm. And I think when you see the pictures that Mr. Peck will share with you, you'll see that there was physical harm. And so we don't have any plans at this time to have any administrative action on them. We regret the incident happened. They regret the incident happened, but at the same time, they also did everything prior to what's out there on social media to prevent any further escalation while they were taking bodily blows to their head and their back and physical harm. So no, we don't.
All authority figures, please listen to that. Please allow your subordinates to defend themselves without us having to lose our jobs when we are being assaulted. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. We share people like to talk about the martial arts in peace. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Peace.